thought that today, with the weather being as bad as it is, you can probably tell from up there, that I would just go and record a video outside. So let's hope that it doesn't start raining when I'm actually recording this. Now, what I want to talk about today, it's kind of Linuxy related, but initially when I started this channel, I kind of wanted it to be a more general tech channel, and then I really never did those sorts of videos. But today, we're going to do one of those and just see how it goes, basically. It's still kind of Linux related, so if that's all you care about, then maybe you'll still find it interesting. So if you don't know, I've been using a Acer Swift 3 to do my video recordings and all of my video editing, I think, yeah, since the start of the channel. So I haven't had another device since the start, but this has led to some problems. So this isn't a slow device by any means. It has a i7 7500U, a MX150 as the graphics card, but Kdenlive doesn't really do GPU rendering, at least with NVIDIA. I don't know how well it fares with AMD cards, but with NVIDIA cards at least, I haven't noticed it working properly. It could also just be the fact the MX150 is really slow. So even with it enabled, it doesn't really make much of a difference. But anyway, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. But what I have noticed is that very recently, I would say within the past week and a half, past 2 weeks or so, I've been getting some really, really noticeable problems, and I think they might be hardware related, especially considering that I can't imagine that all of my software would have just suddenly broken like this, unless like my X server suddenly broke or something. So what I've been noticing is a lot of really weird graphical flickering. So if you watched my recent video on, what did I do the other day? I don't remember what I recorded yesterday. I think it was on something like transmission. No, it was Git Gutter. If you've seen my Git Gutter video, you might have noticed that at some point in that video, my screen just started flickering. That wasn't a rare occurrence. That is probably the worst I've seen it happen, but before that, things like I would have the background behind my windows when I have transparency enabled, or when I have blur enabled, they would start flickering, or the compositor would die. So there was a point where for some reason it wasn't actually blurring anymore. It at some point decided to just do transparency. Don't know why that happened. But then there was another time when instead of doing the regular blur, what it did was kind of just made everything look, I don't know, it's like a pixelated blur. Not really what you'd expect from a Gaussian blur. I don't know if I'll be able to get a picture of it because I'm not sure how to recreate it now that it's just stopped happening. But I don't know what was happening there, and it wasn't like I had to reinstall the compositor. Basically just a restart fixed it, because restarting the compositor didn't fix it. I tried that a couple of times. I tried reinstalling the compositor, had the exact same problem, and then it just stopped after a reboot. So I'm going to assume that it could have been a hardware issue, especially considering this other stuff that was happening, like, for example, with BSPWM, the borders around the windows, they would sometimes just completely die. So they would start flickering random colors, and there was another time when if I moved my cursor onto the window and I didn't full screen the window, the border would just start flickering the default color. So the other time it was flickering just random colors. This time it was just flickering the color that I'd set it to be. But then when I full screened or when I switched to another window, it stopped happening. But I haven't updated BSPWM, so I don't know what's happened there. I don't think I've updated anything that could have affected it, so I'm going to assume it was probably a hardware issue. And the reboot fixed it, maybe? I don't know, because sometimes after a reboot, it didn't actually fix it. I don't know what's happening with this computer, to be honest. It was already a couple of years old, so I think I'd had it. When I started uni, I would have been using my MacBook Pro. Then I reckon in my second year, I would have bought the Swift 3, which I got as the store model, so I got a discount on it. Always buy store models if you can do it. There's a bit of a hint for you. If you want to buy new devices, already wouldn't recommend really buying new devices unless you have extra money to throw around or you absolutely want it to survive a couple of years. I wouldn't recommend buying new devices. So if you do want to buy them though, then you're probably better off just buying, if they will let you, the store model, which generally they'll give you a bit of a discount on because it's usually like people have touched it a bit. Maybe there'll be a scratch on it. I think I got $150 off, but that's not what I wanted to focus this video on. I think, well, okay, besides the actual graphical problems, I've also just been having problems where if I have a render issue, such as with Kdenlive, for some reason there's a key bound that will cut the first 2 seconds off of your video. Don't know what the purpose of the key is. I've unbound it because there have been so many times when I've accidentally uploaded a video where I didn't realize I'd cut the first couple of seconds off, but they were just not there. And people are pointing out, it's like, oh, that's a great intro, and it's like the first 2 seconds is just a black screen. So I don't know exactly what was happening there. Well, okay, I know what was happening there. I don't know why it was set up to actually do that. But besides that, when I actually do have those problems, the issue I was actually having, are these people going to come into the park? Maybe? Yes, they are. The issue I was actually having there was that if I made that mistake on rendering, I'd go to upload the video, it would be uploaded, I'd check to try to add cards to the video, and I would then realize, oh, well, now that I've made a mistake here, I've kind of got to upload something different, because it's going to take me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to actually, fix these changes. So, I think for the regular, the regular videos, the 10 minute, 15, 30, the regular length videos, those took, I'd say, about 40, 50 minutes to actually render. But if it was the podcast where I made a mistake, the podcast was the big one. So I actually had to get that rendered overnight, because what was happening was it would take, so for just the hour length podcast, which is the short solo episodes, and if I have a guest that doesn't have much time, those ones would take about minimum, if I had nothing else running, minimum 2 hours. If it was a 3-hour podcast though, you can do the maths in your head to work out how long that's going to take it. Sometimes 5, sometimes 6, 7 hours. So I would have to have that rendering overnight. So the process I had when I was actually making the clips for those videos was I had to render the first day, then the next day I would basically cut out all the clips. Okay, there were people walking around the park just a moment ago, and everyone's just left. I don't know why. There was an old lady that walked in front of me. I think she was real confused about what I was doing, and there was a family that was walking through, but I don't know why they'd be walking through, because the park is basically closed right now. I'm not going to show you the signs because you'll probably be able to work out where I am, but they've basically got little things covering the slides, so you can't actually go down the slides. But what was I saying? With the podcast clips, I basically have to have them rendered one day. Then the next day I would basically start cutting out the clips. So if I wanted to do, say, 3 clips, that would be, well, it wouldn't take too long to actually get the clips cut out. But I couldn't actually do them the first day. And the reason I couldn't do them the first day is another reason that I need to get a new computer. And that is that for some reason, OBS, I think it's just because the scene is too complicated for my computer, OBS just decides to have the audio desynced. And this is a consistent problem, and it only happens on my podcast scene. So I think there might be some sort of problem with OBS on Linux with the setting images as a background, because the way I do my podcast recording is I've got it set up as if I was doing it for a live stream. So I record with the actual background that I would have actually in the video, as opposed to how you would normally do a video like that where you would record the face cams and then do it in post. So because I've got it set up like that, then basically I think OBS on Linux just has a bit of a problem with that. So there's just a bunch of little performance problems with this computer, alongside the actual problems I have with just the hardware problem coming from the fact that I've been rendering video on this device that you really shouldn't be rendering video on. Now, I know some people are going to be like, oh, but I do everything on my old ThinkPad, and that's great. And I know there are Linux creators who do everything on their old ThinkPads. Like, Luke does everything on his ThinkPad. Luke also doesn't edit his videos, though. I at least do the bare minimum level of edits. He pretty much, I think, all he does, I don't think he does even color correction. I generally don't do color correction just because usually my webcam recordings are fine, but I still at least cut stuff out. If he makes a mistake, he'll just restart the recording. If I tried to do that, I don't know why with the vlogs it's a bit different, but when I'm recording with the webcam, I cannot string more than 2 or 3 sentences together. So if I tried to record an entire video, like my review of something like Vim Git Gutter or a Vim tutorial or anything like that, if I tried to do that in one take without having tons of silence or without having a bunch of weird gaps or weird tripping over my tongue, that would probably take me somewhere in the realm of 5-6 hours to record, just because I'd need to practice it and practice it and practice it. And generally the way that I do my videos, if you haven't noticed, I do them pretty much off the cuff. I've started to do notes. You might have noticed in my more technical videos, I generally know what I'm talking about now, which is an improvement over my old content. So what I'll do now is I'll actually make sure that anything that I'm not too sure about, I'll actually, I guess, take notes on. And that goes and actually helps to improve that sort of content. But I think I've just gone completely off the off tangent, or on a completely different tangent now. That's not even what the video was focused on. I was supposed to be talking about the computer, but if you're, 11 minutes into this, maybe you're still enjoying this. I don't know. I think with these vlogs, it's kind of fine to be a bit more off the cuff. If you're watching more of the vloggy content, I think you'd kind of expect there to be, I guess, not the most informative content. It's more like what your personality is really. If you're watching it for this long, you're probably already expecting that, hey, if it's a vlog, it's probably going to go off the cuff at some point. So I think it's probably fine. I don't know. If anyone's still watching it, actually, not just if anyone's still watching this video, if anyone is watching this video to begin with, that's awesome, because I do enjoy doing the vlog content. This sort of stuff actually is pretty easy for my computer to actually get through as well, because I typically don't do much editing. What I'll usually do with these sorts of videos at the most is I will cut out basically clips where I'm not saying anything and it's just dead air pretty much. So I did that a couple of times during this recording. Generally, I don't normally edit these videos, but I guess for some reason I'm stumbling a bit more today, probably because I'm not used to recording where I know people are going to be walking through. That's kind of just the experiment I'm doing today. I know there's not a ton of people just because everyone's on lockdown right now, but I've never actually done a recording somewhere that I know that there will be people walking through. So I just wanted to see how that would basically go. That's pretty much why I'm recording in the park today. Plus, the other reason is that I was actually expecting it to rain by the time I got to my normal recording spot. So that's kind of why I'm recording here today as well. But it is nice to see that I can actually function as I said I can function recording videos, but then I completely fall apart. I can actually function recording videos in a place that I know people are going to be around, because I kind of do have a bit of stage fright. Generally a pretty normal thing just because I'm not used to doing much public speaking, but I think it's a bit different when there's a camera there. For some reason, like, I'm not usually this talkative if you meet me in person, but you stick me in front of a camera and I guess there's kind of a bit of a change that happens. We're not really sure what's going on there either, but I don't know. That's way off topic from the regular video. What I was saying with this was that these videos take the least amount of time to actually render. Usually the most I'll ever do. For the library exclusive ones, I will stick those through Handbrake. I usually don't even bother editing those ones, because the library exclusive ones are kind of just my off the cuff, whatever happens sort of videos. If I accidentally swear, that's fine. YouTube, I try to keep that off of. So I've actually been pretty good with my main channel avoiding swearing, because otherwise I would have to do a bit more editing on those ones. But if you want to hear that, go check out the podcast that take 7 hours to render. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say in this video. I kind of went completely off the cuff at some points. So I think I'm going to end it there, and if you want to stick around and hear me read out my patron names, then that's what I'm going to do now. So I'll cut back to when I'm at home. Before I go, I want to thank my patrons Andrew, Road, Okulari, and Zilva, and a special thank you to Nathan, who is my newest patron. Your help is really appreciated. For anyone who wants to monetarily support the channel but doesn't want to support me on Patreon, there's also some Amazon affiliate links down below, as well as some other stuff down there, so feel free to check that out as well. I've got my social links, so my Discord and my Telegram, and my alternate video platforms for my BitTube and my library. Also remember to smash the like button and leave me a comment, and remember to subscribe and ding the bell icon down below as well. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out. That completely fell apart at the end there.